Welcome back everybody, Dan here for Sim Racing Source. Thanks so much for joining in for today's video. So I'm actually kind of confused myself that I'm making this video because this is not the way it is supposed to work in the gaming industry. Typically when there is a second game that comes out, it's for the most part better than the first. And that's just what we assume. That's the way that it works. Typically, there's very few exceptions of that. But for giggles, I decided to reinstall Project Cars 1 and compare it against Project Cars 2. Because I remember back in the day, I used to really love Project Cars 1. That was a game I always went back to. It was so much fun. And I just don't get that from Project Cars 2. While Project Cars 2, it's a good game, it doesn't keep me coming back wanting more for whatever reason. So I wanted to compare the two to see what the difference was. So basically what I did was I installed Project Cars 1 and I would drive the same car and track combos on both games. I went back and forth. One car and track on Project Cars 1, then I would drive it on Project Cars 2, and then I would go back and I would compare it, and then I would try a different car and track combo, and I'd go back and compare it. As most of you know, a lot of the content on Project Cars 2 was basically a move over from Project Cars 1, so it's very easy to test this. And I remember when Project Cars 2 first was released, or right before it was released, the developers really hyped it up, and then when it dropped, it wasn't that good. But they made some quick changes and fixed it, and it ended up being a pretty decent game. But what happened was, nobody really ever went back to Project Cars 1, at least I didn't, to test the situation, because they quickly made Project Cars 2 pretty decent. But that is not what I'm getting out of this little test I did, and I would invite you guys to go and test this out yourself. I know most of you that own Project Cars 2 probably had Project Cars 1, so it's not like you have to go out and buy it, but even if you do, it's probably dirt cheap now. Project Cars 1 probably costs next to nothing. Go and do what I did and test this out and just check me on this. Let me know if I'm correct, because these are the findings that I found when I compared the two. So as far as the cars go, and this is across the board on every car I tested, the cars just feel so much more lively on Project Cars 1. It's like, I don't know if it's a combination of the tire model or the physics engine, but it just feels more lively. They move around more. Not that it's harder per se, but it's just they move around more. It feels more like you're having to actively control something, whereas in Pcars 2, most cars to me kind of just, they all feel the same. It's like when you drive one car and move to another, it's basically like you're driving the exact same car. It feels the same, very flat, and it just has more or less horsepower than the first one you drove. But that's not the case in Pcars 1. All the cars have a very specific feel. They all feel differently, and it just feels more lively. That's the word I would say. So test that out, guys. See if you get the same opinion. The second thing that I found is pretty much, not 100%, but for the most part, across the board, the cars sound so much better on Project Cars 1. There were a few exceptions, I will admit, but for the most part, every car had this louder, more grunty sound to it, and it just made for a more fun experience. It made you feel like you were more in the situation. And then the last thing that I also found, which is hugely important, and I will mention, guys, I am running a direct drive wheel, but I'm running the baseline force feedback setups in both games, no add-ins. And what I found is the baseline force feedback feels so much better in Project Cars 1. And I had forgotten that. That was a big complaint that I had initially when I started playing Project Cars 2, is that it felt so flat and just very weak, even if you cranked it way up, based against the really good force feedback in Project Cars 1. And now I know many people are probably not going to realize this anymore, because I know a lot of people went over and started using the Jack Spade and the various force feedback upgrades for Project Cars 2, but you shouldn't have to do that. The force feedback should be decent out of the gate. So that's why I don't understand why they made that change. To me, the force feedback is way better, and there's a little less content. There are a few things that are better about Project Cars 2. I'm not going to completely trash it. That's not my attempt here. I mean, there's more content. The graphics definitely, in my opinion, look better in Project Cars 2. And the menu system is a little more refined. It works a little smoother, especially on PC when it's not technically supposed to be a PC title. You know, so it's easier to get around in Project Cars 2. Things like setting up triple screen support, your virtual reality support, that was made much easier in Project Cars 2. And those were very nice entries into the title. But my question is, Why did you change all the good stuff? Why did you make the cars feel less lively? Why'd you make the cars sound less alive and less grunty, less loud and in your face? We like that stuff. We're sim racers. And why in the heck would you change the force feedback? That makes absolutely no sense. All those things were good. What they should have done was they should have kept the way the cars feel, kept the way the cars sound, and kept the force feedback, and then just added those newer, better menu systems and various better things about Project Cars 2 to the existing game. But instead they changed a lot of stuff that worked well, and I don't get it. And I didn't even realize this, honestly, guys, until I just did this back to back. So please check this out yourself. Reinstall it, play the game. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised, and I think you may end up playing Project Cars 1 more than you play Project Cars 2. So yeah, test this out. Let me know what you think. Guys, thanks so much for joining in with me. We're having a strong run here. I'm trying to knock out as many videos as possible for the month of October. I'm going to continue going on. We've got subscriber increase like crazy, view count increase like crazy, and it's really awesome. That's all because of you guys. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it, and thanks for hanging out with me for this video. If you enjoyed what you like, subscribe. If you're not, click the bell button and click the like button. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. We'll see you later.